Mm. That's super helpful. So thanks for diving into that, Kurt. So the last question that I have for you with regards to this interview is just like, what can we learn from Bart Ehrman? Like, what are because he's a really good scholar from everything I like. I'm not a New Testament scholar by any means. From what I understand, like mostly evangelicals and like respect him as like a good scholar, even if they disagree with him on some of his conclusions. Like, what can we learn about like Ehrman and his work that can benefit us as Christians?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for us to read what non-Christians say about about the same
Mm-hmm.
stuff we're reading about the Bible. If we want to reach non-believers, we have to read what the non-believers are reading. And misquoting Jesus has sold, it's a New York Times bestseller. It's sold millions of copies. So people are obviously reading misquoting Jesus. So if, I think sometimes Christians are scared. They're scared to read non-Christian literature because they might be worried. They might have a seed in the back of their mind. Well, what if I read this and I'm not going to be a Christian anymore? Well, look, we should follow the truth wherever it goes. And if someone has that fear, just know that there are extremely intelligent people who have read this material and have not given up the faith, right? So there are responses, there are answers, there are assumptions we have that Bart does not have. There are, and I'm not saying those are bad assumptions, right? There are such things as good assumptions to have. There are positions we hold that we think are intellectually defensible. For example, God exists and he works in the course of human history, right? So with just those two beliefs, we're going to have different views that flow from that. Ehrman doesn't share that, so he's going to have views that go the other way. And so that's where you can point out some of our differences, even our differences in our methodology. So as you read guys like Ehrman, you're going to learn more about what other non-Christians think, and you may get exposed to what can be some very beneficial things. So you can learn more about the field of New Testament studies. When I studied at King's College London, I did my degree in systematic theology there. Lived in England for a year. It was a lot of fun. But they are not an evangelical institution. But they have a theology department, right? This is Church of England, and I became exposed to all sorts of views that are abhorrent. I'm talking, I was reading queer interpretations of the woman at the well. People who are sexualizing conversation between Jesus and this woman. I mean, this stuff is, so far from what a first century Jewish context would call for. So I think it's just historically inaccurate, but you just obviously these people's biases. I mean, it's called, queer interpretation for a reason. So I was reading this. I was reading Gadamer, who basically says you can't know what the text means. And so, whatever it is, like reader response sort of philosophy. It really exposed me to these different views because you might find these views creeping into our Christian communities, right? And so we've got a duty to defend against this. Well, we've read the best stuff, right? To be prepared, we've read the best stuff on it. So when someone might be positing, oh, well, we can't really know what the text says. Well, wait a second. No, right? We've read and we've been trained. We've thought and we've been trained to respond to this material. So those are some very good reasons for why we should read outside of our own circles, so we can be prepared for this material that's out there.